Hi guys, welcome back to Urban Mixer. Now, we have a great interview for you. We have John Richardson from the Pivot Legal Society. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
Now, John, tell us a little about what you do and tell us about Pivot.
Sure. Well, I'm a lawyer with Pivot and I'm the executive director. And Pivot is kind of a legal advocacy organization, and we do kind of systemic advocacy for marginalized communities. So trying to make structural changes that are going to improve their lives. Nice. So to government and policymakers and things like that.
Okay, and so you're a nonprofit society, and so where does most of your support come from?
Well, we get donations. We get a lot of donations and some foundation support, and we also do a calendar every year called the Hope and Shadows calendar. You might see people selling them on the streets, so raise some money from that, and we also sell legal services too.
Now, tell us who would be coming to you for help?
Gosh, well, I mean, in terms of the mandate of the nonprofit organization, a lot, people living in the Downtown Eastside, Aboriginal communities, low-income people, definitely people that are generally disenfranchised and low income.
Yeah. How is public response for something that you do that helps the community? And I know the Downtown Eastside has a lot of problems going on socially, and it's very, very prominent in the news and whatnot. How is the response coming back from you guys and what you do?
From the community generally? Yeah. Well, I think people are pretty supportive of it. I mean, obviously, something needs to change in the Downtown Eastside. And the focus of Pivot is try to get at the roots of problems, and that's often in legislation or policies, and get underneath that and try and get changes there, and hopefully, make widespread impacts generally for people.
Now let's talk about policy changes, things that are going on in your organization in the news. Just happened. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, today we released a report called Broken Promises, and we've been working on it for about 16 months now. And it's about the Ministry of Children and Families and the impacts of the child protection system on low-income mothers, Aboriginal families, and pretty critical of the government and pretty critical of how the child protection system works, especially the impacts on Aboriginal families and, like I said, low-income mothers, and arguing that the legislation is okay, but the way that it's implemented needs to be seriously changed, and that they're taking children from people's families when they could be doing other things to support the families in keeping their children. A lot of it boils down to people are poor. Yeah. And how if you're a single mom and you're on welfare, right? How do you keep your child in a good home? Yeah. Right. And so there are a lot of single mothers out there that are super struggling, and taking their children away from them is not going to help the situation, not going to help the mothers, not going to help the children. So arguing for the government to really fund a lot of the programs that are going to support low-income mothers and Aboriginal families and taking care of the children.
How can our viewers and people help in your cause? And is there an awareness out there that we can stem from UMTV viewers?
Well, I mean, I think it all starts with kind of awareness of things, right? And I encourage people to take a look at our website. It's pivotlegal.org. And I think there's just a general awareness that it's good to cultivate, that everybody in the community benefits when people that are right down at the bottom, living on the edge, when improving their lives, improves the lives of everyone, really. So I think that's the kind of the essential understanding behind Pivot. And if people want to get directly involved, I mean, it kind of depends on where they're coming from. They want to support us financially. Of course, we're not going to. We're not going to turn away money, right? Yeah. But we do other things like, if you need a lawyer, we're also a law firm. Yeah. So that is a way of generating revenue for us. So if you're starting a business, we do business law. We do criminal defense work. We do immigration law. So we sell legal services. People want to volunteer. Interesting thing I think about Pivot is people with pretty high level skills can volunteer. Like we have a communications team, for example, right now, some pretty intense professional communications people that are really focused on getting the message out about the importance of policy changes and improving the lives of marginalized people. So there are lots of opportunities all across the board for people to get involved in volunteering.
Now, on Urban Mixture, every week, we get to talk about really fun stuff that goes around town. We get to talk about all the events that happen in the city here. There is another side to our great city that needs a lending hand, and people like John and Pivot make that difference. And I think that us as a community, as a group of young individuals that are very responsible, need to participate and help people like John and the Pivot Society, Pivot Legal Society, move forward. And we thank you for being on the show. And Urban Mixer thanks you for being here as well.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
More to come right after this. Now, that was a quick ending and a quick impromptu visit again from us here at the end of the show. But there's a reason for that. Have you ever been out and about in town, having a good time, and you sometimes see the police out and about? And we talk about who's policing the police. John from the Pivot Legal Society has a little bit of an idea on that as well, and get a few words from him as well.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think when it comes down to policing the police, we are the employers of the police, and everyone needs to know their legal rights if they're ever going to be in a police interaction. So, we have a card that people can download from our website or drop by us and pick it up.
And now this says statement for police.
Yeah.
Now, what is this? What can we do with this? Like, this is amazing. Yeah.
I mean, you can read it and kind of understand what it is, or you can read it out to a police officer if you ever get stopped. But basically, it's a statement where you're asserting your rights. And maybe I'll just read it out so people can hear it.
Please.
Sure. So, officer, if I'm under arrest or being detained, please tell me so. If I'm free to go, please tell me so. If I'm not free to go, please tell me why. I wish to exercise all my legal rights, including my right to silence and my right to speak to a lawyer before I say anything to you. I do not consent to be searched. I wish to be released without delay. Please do not ask me questions, because I will not willingly speak to you until I talk to a lawyer. Thank you for respecting my rights.
Thank you for being on Urban Mixer TV.